All right, basketball fans, we know it's March Madness, and we're going to get ramped up and really into the NCAA tournament in just about 12 hours, all of us. But here on SEC Breakdown, every Wednesday night we talk nothing but football, and know, because you're SEC football fans, that you can talk and listen to football analysis 52 weeks a year. So we bring in the very best bloggers, and this is basically your SEC Breakdown crew, minus Chad Neipling this week. Under the weather, he'll be back at him, but still able enough from his sick bed to build a website for us, which we'll be launching very, very soon. So we got Mike Loveall from Last Word on Sports, and we also have David Waters to break down what I'm very excited about to hear you guys going at it, because there are a few rivalries like Florida and Tennessee. We got a glimpse last year in 2015 of what it was in the 90s. And hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of that in the next few years between Jim McElwain and Butch Jones. So we'll let the Gators and the Vols go at it. Dave, we'll tee you up in regards to kind of getting a feel for what Tennessee's got going this spring.
Yeah, so I hit Mike with a couple of thoughts I have, and questions more than likely, or for the most part. Like we know, Josh Dobbs and the Tennessee running game are going to be the forefront, and definitely should be, because with the success that they had last year. But they got a big hole to fill at left tackle and a wide receiver battle. So I guess we'll dive into who's that left tackle that who can protect Dobbs and let this passing game take the next step.
Dave, that's a really good, interesting question, and that's really where a lot of people are going to start first and foremost with on-the-field questions with the spring. Coming into the spring, a lot of people thought it was going to be a three-way battle between Chance Hall, a returning starter from last year, Brett Kendrick, who filled in a little bit, started a couple games last year, and highly prized redshirt freshman Drew Richmond, who Butch Jones took away from Ole Miss at the last minute in National Signing Day 2015. However, Chance Hall is out of spring practice due to injuries. There are 11 scholarship players who are sitting out spring ball this year for Tennessee due to injuries. Chance Hall is one of them. So a lot of people thought it was going to be Drew Richmond's time to shine. Mike DeBoer presented their spring session. Mike DeBoer made the statement that it's really Drew Richmond and Dontavius Blair battling for the left tackle position. Dontavius Blair is a big guy. He's a fifth-year senior. He's been a little bit of a disappointment over the last 4 years in Knoxville. So it's very surprising for Tennessee fans to hear DeBoer come out and say that it's really a battle between Dontavius Blair and Drew Richmond. Of those two, most people think that Drew Richmond is going to have the skill set to win the job, particularly as a redshirt freshman. If he's on par with Blair, he's probably going to get the nod because he's really the future. Also, people are not sure if DeBoer's saying that for the spring period, and if he's going to stick with Chance Hall at right tackle, or if Chance Hall will compete for the left tackle position when they come back in the summer camp. But right now, it looks to be most people are thinking Drew Richmond because of DeBoer's comments this past spring and what we know, what we've seen from Dontavius Blair over the past 4 years. The rest of the offensive line is looking pretty solid. Because of the injuries, they're kind of rotating people through. Tennessee really thinks we have 3 starting tackles for 2 tackle jobs and 3 starting guards for 2 guard jobs. And we're pretty set with Coleman Thomas there in the center. So it's just going to be a little bit of rotation, mixing and matching to find out what guy fits in what position. But specifically for the left tackle position, it looks like right now it might be Drew Richmond, redshirt freshman, protecting Dobbs' blind side.
Keep going, Dave. You can fire away.
All right. And now, we'll jump back to the receiver. You said, when we did our Tennessee spring preview that it would be, the vertical passing game that would need the most help from, Josh Dobbs for the Tennessee offense to take the next step. Who do we have at receiver? I know the names of Josh Smith, Josh Malone, Juwan Jennings. But, is it those guys that are going to be the catalyst of taking the next step, or is there somebody out there that we're overlooking?
Well, I think Josh Malone's going to be one of the key contributors. He's got all the talent in the world, but again, he's one of those 11 players who are missing spring practice, a little banged up, taking spring practice off. Jeff George is being looked at pretty highly. He's a JUCO transfer out of Dodge City, Kansas. went to high school there in Leavenworth, Kansas. He's 6'6". People are excited about his height. He's displayed. He's what you would expect from a new guy in the program. He's displayed a lot of ups in the spring workouts and in the 3 practice, a couple of adjustment periods. But he has shown a couple of great plays in spring practice. And then Preston Williams, young guy from last year, had to battle back from some injuries from his high school senior year, and he had the SAT, ACT score debacle last spring. So he kind of had an off season last year. Made a few plays during the season, but a lot of people are really excited about Preston Williams and mature Jeff George. People are really excited about the run after the catch potential from those two and their potential in the red zone. I think if we can get consistency from Josh Malone and Josh Smith, that'll help. A big play potential from Jeff George and Preston Williams. And then the other thing to look for, not in the vertical passing game, but as far as matchups, is the movement of Jason Kroom from receiver to tight end. He will be a matchup nightmare. Some people are comparing him to O.J. Howard. I don't know that I would go that far, not because I don't like Jason Kroom, just because I think O.J. Howard is a really special player, underutilized there at Alabama. But that's kind of the mindset of moving Jason Kroom over to tight end. He'll be a matchup problem underneath for the linebackers and or the nickel, depending on who picks him up, depending on what formation we're in, and that will release our outside receivers to be probably one-on-one on the sides, deep down the field.
And one more thing, it just kind of popped in my head. And at the quarterback position, it's the most important one. And if, say, the worst happens and Josh Dobbs goes down, what happens to the Tennessee offense then?
Well, Quentin Dormady is the backup. Dormady is a better passer than Dobbs. Obviously, he's not as good of a runner. But I think the offense is built on that option. So I think you would see. I do not think you would see Tennessee. I don't think you would see them hesitate to start throwing the ball downfield. They would not run the exact same plays, or the play calling would not be the same as Josh Dobbs. But I do not think they would hesitate to throw the ball downfield, throw it across the middle. Dormady has a very strong arm, probably a little more accurate than Josh Dobbs, particularly once you get to the second, third levels. Has a good head on his shoulder, probably not as Josh Dobbs, and he can still run. He's not going to run it as often as Joshua Dobbs, nor is he going to break as many tackles as Joshua Dobbs. But he does have the potential to run the ball to get that first down on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 for the option read. But I don't think you would see Tennessee to be scared or to hesitate to change their play calling philosophy and go down the field. Oftentimes, when the backup quarterback comes in, the offensive changes play calling tendencies, and he'll just use a guy who doesn't have the same skill set and the same play calling methodology. I don't think you would see that if Dormady came into the game. I think you would see Tennessee readily switch to a passing first attack.
And we've got to think that Tennessee is one of only 2 teams in the SEC that feel real comfortable with their quarterback situation coming back from 2015. Of course, Brandon Harris is back at LSU, Drew Lockey back at Mizzou, but Josh Dobbs, Chad Kelly seem to be the cream of the crop in the SEC coming into this fall. So, Mike, you took the fire from David. We'll cut you loose in trying to dissect this Gators team that, starting a quarterback, it's fairly wide open.
Yeah, Mark, I think as happy as Tennessee is with their situation quarterback, I think the first question to David from anybody who asks him about Florida spring practice is going to be who's going to be the quarterback there in Florida, and will they be able to have a more effective offensive season than Florida had last year?
What we've seen so far throughout the spring is, it's pretty much what we thought going in, and it's Luke Del Rio's job to lose. Michael Wayne did actually come out and say, more than he did at any point last spring or even going into the season last year, that Luke Del Rio does have a leg up on the job right now. And he did basically say it was because of, the year he sat behind him for a transfer last year. And, now he's also, we learned last week, he gained an extra year of eligibility. So does that factor in of him being able to come in and get that job as well? It helps him in the long run to know that he has another year. But he does look to be the most comfortable quarterback. He's actually using, pump fakes and moving his shoulders and setting his feet when he throws. And he's getting the ball out, which is the most important part. When Will Grier was quarterback for Florida last year in the first 6 games, he had a propensity to get the ball out a lot faster than Treon Harris did the last half of the season, and that made the offensive line look a lot better than it probably really was. We saw the offensive line fall apart when Treon Harris was there because he wouldn't get rid of the ball. But right now what we're seeing from Luke Del Rio is he is the quarterback right now that is getting rid of the ball and getting his checks down, and he looks more comfortable than any of the other guys, and that's to be expected. Austin Appleby is a grad transfer from Purdue, and the first couple times we saw him from the public viewing of the practice was that he was very erratic to begin with, and it was a very big surprise that Kyle Trask, the true freshman from Texas, it wasn't Felipe Franks that came in and lit the world on fire. It was actually Kyle Trask. He didn't get a lot of hype coming out of high school, but he seemed to be very on point. He was putting the ball in very catchable positions and letting the receivers go and make plays. But as it stands right now, Luke Del Rio, it's his job to lose.
Dave, not a spring practice question for you, but how short of a leash do you think McElwain's going to have? Let's say you guys lose to Tennessee and you get to game 4 or 5 in the season, and it kind of looks like last year. How short of a leash do you think he's going to have, particularly when it comes to 2 freshmen? Do you think he really is set on redshirting 1 or 2 of those guys, or do you think he's going to make a move at quarterback during the season quickly if it's not working out?
I think one of the freshmen in Franks or Trask will definitely get redshirted. Put a year in between those guys. But I do think that's probably part of the reason he brought in grad transfer Austin Appleby. It does give them the ability to now have a quarterback that's a pro-style quarterback that can actually sit in there, and you don't have to change the offense for much like, I hate to bring it up again, but when we went from Will Grier to Treon Harris, it was 2 quarterbacks who didn't have the same skill set. But now you have these guys who come in and they're more of the same skill set. So if the worst happens and they lose to Tennessee and there's an upset, with Kentucky early in the season or something like that, that hasn't happened in 23 years now, something like that. So, but if that was the case and Florida does lose to a big upset in Kentucky and then Tennessee, and you getting there with 2 losses or close games and the quarterbacks are not looking that great, I do think he will give Austin Appleby a chance. I think that was the reason he brought a grad transfer in.
Hey, last question for you. Special teams was a weakness for you guys last year. Did McElwain do any recruiting specifically towards special teams players, or are they doing anything in spring practice to really work on that? What's the state of special teams in Florida? With the competitiveness of the SEC, that has a chance of being the difference in 1 or 2 games next year.
It was probably the most underrated signing Florida had of this past recruiting class was junior college kicker Eddie Pinheiro, redshirt sophomore now. Kicker Austin Harden, Florida announced earlier in the week that he is transferring away from the program. That lets me know Pinheiro has come in and pretty much solidified his role as the field goal kicker. We've seen all the trick shot videos he's put on YouTube. He's kicking 60-yarders. He's won all kind of kicking competitions that he's kicking with former NFL players and current NFL free agent kickers. And he's booming 60, 70-yarders at practice. He's doing trick shots where he lines up, in line with the side of the field goal, and he hits the upright every time he wants to. So, but he has yet to kick in a college football game. So what's going to happen when there's 90,000 people screaming and, Florida's down by 2 and he's kicking the game-winning field goal? That's going to be what happens to see where it stands with, the special teams situation at Florida, because, Mike, as you said, it was not so special last year.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. Do you guys even have a second kicker behind him?
If the Jorge Powell was the kicker who took over for Harden when Harden was struggling last year, and he got hurt versus LSU, I believe. and he tore his ACL. So if he comes back from injury, he actually showed a flash of last year. He could be pretty good, but it's all going to be the ability from him to come back from injury.
Yeah, so he's not seeing the 90,000 people or hearing from them. He's not seeing the two guys that run the 4.45s coming off the edge, or the line in the middle collapsing in on him. But hey, if he's really that good, maybe they give him 4 points for hitting the uprights, and he's got a completely different set of rules set up for him, and we can go that route. So it's been the Florida-Tennessee show here on SEC Breakdown. We remind you that we come your way every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, and we post these shows right on SEC Breakdown on Twitter, so you can find us there. And please follow us on Twitter. You get insight from David Waters, Mike Loveall, Chad Neipling, who's on his sickbed right now, but still launching a website for us at the same time. So, Chad, get better very quickly, and myself, Mark Rogers. And our videos are posted at Mark Rogers TV, and also our audio podcast doing very well on Podbean and also iTunes. So, again, that's SEC Breakdown. Find us at Mark Rogers TV, in particular, Twitter, SEC Breakdown. We talk it up each and every day. SEC football in particular, but this time of year, of course, we're talking March Madness as well, and also baseball and softball in full swing. All right, we also bring in some great guys from the outside, and this week it's Mr. Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown, Alabama. Stephen, how are you?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Very good.
Great. Doing great. So, typically, star quarterback gone, Heisman Trophy winning running back gone, 2 key offensive linemen gone, but I think you're in pretty good shape. So you got a 4-quarterback battle. Cooper Bateman, Blake Barnett, who's got the high ceiling, David Cornwell, we've heard much about, Jalen Hurts also coming onto campus here very recently in January. Let's start at the quarterback spot in regards to how you are handicapping this one at this point, Stephen.
At this point, Mark, it's kind of the flip of the coin between either Bateman or Barnett. Cooper Bateman, a little bit more size at 6'3". Blake Barnett at 6'5". However, only 198 pounds, hasn't gained much weight since he came onto campus during last season. So it's a flip of the coin between Barnett and Bateman, 2 guys with strong arms. But with Bateman, he's got a little bit more of that experience. Behind those two, I look at David Cornwell, 6'5", 221 pounds, a guy that was seen in Texas with O.J. Howard getting some pass-catching drills in. And then last but not least, Jalen Hurts, the talented freshman from Channelview, Texas, who stands at 6'2", 205 pounds, a guy that will more than likely be redshirted. But in my mind, I think it's a flip of the coin between either Barnett or Cooper Bateman.
Hey, Stephen, this is something we kicked around a couple weeks ago. And considering all the talent that O.J. Howard has and what we saw in the national championship game, this is not a guy that we can again see catch 17 passes for 250 yards this season. We have to see more O.J. Howard, right?
We have to see more, and the most incredible thing, Mark, about this year, you just mentioned there's Jacob Coker gone, so you're not only replacing a quarterback for the 3rd straight year, you're replacing a running back, and one of Derrick Henry's caliber that nobody really thought he would have had the year he had this past season. I mean, people knew he was good, but not 2,000 yards good. People knew he was good, but not breaking Bo Jackson record, not breaking Herschel Walker record good. So when you're replacing the likes of not just Jacob Coker, but also Derrick Henry, you have to locate a quarterback that's not afraid to take some shots, along with keeping a respectable touchdown to interception ratio. With that being said, Alabama already has a great deal of blocking tight ends, Dakota Ball and Miller Forrestall, and also Hale Henkes. So O.J. Howard has got to be the one guy at 6'6", 242 pounds that you have to line up at wide receiver and let him go out there and have fun running some routes.
SEC Breakdown, joined by our friend and key contributor here, Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown, Alabama. I know David needs to jump off here in a second. So, David, if you've got anything for Stephen.
Yeah, for sure. Steven, I just want to see what's been the feedback on Jeremy Pruitt so far. He comes in from Georgia, but he comes into an established Nick Saban defense. What differences, if any, that he'll come in from and change what Kirby Smart was doing under Saban?
Well, David, first of all, when you talk Jeremy Pruitt, he's more so of an attacker. He's going to bring a little bit more blitzing than what Kirby Smart did, and a lot more of trusting the corners to play more so on an island. You have guys like Marlon Humphrey and Minkah Fitzpatrick coming back. Both guys got their feet wet last season. Minkah Fitzpatrick getting a chance to kind of transition from that star role he played last year in Alabama's nickel package to being that corner opposite Marlon Humphrey on an island. So when you look at Jeremy Pruitt, more so blitzing, more so attack, really combating the no-huddle, dual-threat quarterback offenses that, no shade to Kirby Smart, but Kirby kind of struggled with the last 2 to 3 to 4 seasons. Now, he got better with it as he got older, more importantly this past year, but there were some times that Kirby did struggle with those type of offenses. So getting Jeremy Pruitt a little bit more blitzing and a little bit more of trusting your corners on an island against these tall, very talented wideouts.
Hey, Mike, anything in particular you'd like to ask Stephen M. Smith here?
Questions for you. The first, who in spring ball is emerging as the next 1 or 2 superstars on that Alabama defensive line?
In spring ball, Mike, the 1 or 2, number 1, I look at Daron Payne. Here's a guy at 6'3", about 315 pounds. He's running a 4.8 in practice. 6'3", 315, running a 4.8. Daron Payne is an absolute monster. Here's a guy that did a great job against Georgia last year, commanding a double team, really allowing guys like Jonathan Allen, guys like Reuben Foster to come in, converge, and make the tackle. Not just him. I think next year is a good year for Deshaun Hand. Here's a guy out of Woodbridge, Virginia, that had a lot of hype coming into Alabama. Defensive line coach Bo Davis has really worked with him on exploding off the ball better, working on his hip motion, his footwork, his hand strike, being able to not just bull rush and spin rush, but understanding when to use his hands, when to attack the quarterback, when to attack the running back in the backfield, how to contain. I look at Daron Payne and Deshaun Hand, 2 guys that next year on that defensive front can be very, very, very good.
315 and 4.840. That's on a mythology level there with Roswell and Sasquatch. I got to see that one on video.
Mike, I'm telling you, I saw this kid, Mike. I'm talking about flat burning at 315.
I know
it's amazing. My second question for you is that Tennessee, our spring is different this year. It keeps the fans interested, the players interested. How is Nick, from a coaching perspective, the spring is so important in getting the mindset set for the program and the team. How does Nick Saban continue year after year to get the team to buy in, pay attention, and to keep that expectation and motivation level way up there when Alabama is just year in and year out for the past 10 years, top team in the league, top team in the nation? How does Nick Saban do that from a coaching, from a leadership perspective?
Well, Nick always takes the approach of hitting the reset button. It's all about what we're doing right now. It's all about this year's team. He never likes to compare a team he's currently working with to teams he's worked with teams that he has worked with in the past. And what that does is it allows the current teams that he's molding to form their own identity. And when you form your own identity, you're not being compared to the who says. You're not being compared to the teams of yesteryear and of recent seasons. You get a chance to come into your own form. And that's what Nick Saban brings to the table each year is it's about you. What can you do as a player? How much are you willing to put in? How much are you willing to put up in reps, in drills, in film work, in the weight room? and to, as a team, come together and buy into this is not the 2009 team. We are this year's team. What's the goal for this year's team? Whether it's winning the SEC, beating Auburn, beating LSU, going to a bowl game, more importantly, winning a national championship. It's about the reset button and how do you get these players to buy into your goal each year of hitting that reset button and trying to make the team and the player as an individual better each year.
And clearly, the players buy into that. I'm really excited to see Scarborough at running back. That's really all the questions I got for you.
All right. Yeah, one of our good friends, the one and only Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama. Before we let you go, Stephen, what have you been working on recently?
I've been having my eyes here, Mark, on free agency. A lot of the Alabama players are trying to get these NFL free agency contracts. So kudos to Evan Mathis, who just signed a nice little one-year, $6 million deal with the Arizona Cardinals. So my ears to free agency. And March Madness, baby, I got 3 brackets, hoping one of these brackets works. I got 3.
Because the NIT was not good to you last night.
It was not. I cried. I literally cried.
Let's not be crying over the NIT, Stephen. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it, but my God, Mark, when you get into postseason play and you want to win and you just don't, it hurts.
Yeah, how come my Gators couldn't shoot like that all year long?
Oh, my goodness, man. Oh, I'll be okay.
All right, he's Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown Alabama, one of our good friends here at SEC Breakdown. I think that's a wrap for Wednesday night in mid-March with March Madness coming up tomorrow night. We're still talking football here on SEC Breakdown. Join us on Twitter, SEC Breakdown. Join Stephen M. Smith at ESPN_future. Tons of information on the SEC and Alabama in particular. So for David Waters, Mike Loveall, and this week Stephen M. Smith, we will see you next week.